Hi everyone, welcome back to Belle's Books. I am Carly and today I am here to do a review of In Defense of the Act by Effie Black. So this is longlisted for the Women's Prize for Fiction for this year. It didn't make the shortlist and I am bitterly disappointed about that. I just finished this today. It's a very short novel and I gave it 5 stars. I thought it was fantastic. I think it's a debut and I wanted to talk to you about it today. So this book, I've heard the premise of this book being spoken about. It is about suicide, so it carries some massive trigger warnings about suicide, but also a lot of other stuff which I'll talk about a little bit, but I won't do any spoilers in this video. So the premise of this book is that our protagonist Jessica is an academic researching suicide in animals. So she has had personal experience of a suicide attempt. The book opens very early on with her as a child taking a cup of tea up to her dad, and she finds him after he has attempted suicide. And her theories around suicide as an evolutionary practice stem from that, but also other encounters that she has throughout her life with various people and various instances of suicide. Sorry, I've got a hair in my mouth, it's really annoying. So I found this such an interesting premise for a book and something that I had not seen written about before in fiction, so that really intrigued me. I mentioned in my previous video that I also have experience of suicide within my own family, and for that reason I was quite interested to see how this would play out, and for me on a personal level it was very interesting because of that experience that I have, and how that has affected my family. So part of my reading experience of this book was coloured by that. But I just thought this was a really strong novel. I really liked I thought the balance between the very difficult and dark subject matter and the humour in the tone of the voice of our protagonist was so well done. There were parts in this book where I laughed. I rarely laugh out loud at a book. But there was an episode in here where she's in a coffee shop just trying to get something that she ordered, and it's farcical, it's very silly, but it just made me laugh so much. And I was like, through this whole book, the tone is quite light and her voice, the protagonist's voice is quite humorous. So I thought that was a really good balance. And she's also dealing with difficult issues around domestic abuse. I haven't heard that spoken about actually on other videos around this book. So one of the main threads of this narrative is that as a child her family was experiencing domestic abuse at the hands of her father. So the premise of the novel is that she thinks that her father should have committed suicide. She prevented him from doing so because she found him and he survived. But in her view, because he was such a bad person and he inflicted so much pain on her mother and her siblings, that it's an evolutionary kind of, I don't know what the term is, but is it like a part of evolution for humans to commit suicide because it is better for the species? So I found that such an interesting premise. And she is a researcher looking at behaviour in animals, again, which I found really interesting. And someone else, I can't remember who it was, but mentioned this was kind of a little bit comparative with Matrescence by Lucy Jones in the style, in terms of the way that she looks at behaviour in animals and then relates it to behaviour in humans. That's talking about pregnancy and motherhood. This is talking about suicide, so it's very different. But I thought that was an interesting point of interaction between two books on both the Women's Prize long lists there. Yeah, so I just adored this book. I found it so interesting. I found the discussion and the very difficult point of view very well handled and very well done. Like I say, the balance between humour and dark content was extremely well done. I really felt like I was seeing the world through this character's eyes, and I really appreciated that. You get to know her family, so her sister she's very close to, and her mother, and then she ends up caring for her father as well, which is an odd situation because her father was very abusive to all of them. And I found that discussion very interesting, because caring for older parents, and particularly problematic parents or people in your family that have been problematic in the past, is something else that I've experienced as well. So there's a lot of really big and heavy themes in here, but it's dealt with so well. I just really appreciated the exploration of that in this book. And yeah, I just loved it so much. I'm so disappointed it didn't make the shortlist, but if it wasn't for the Women's Prize longlist, I wouldn't have picked this up. I wouldn't have heard of it. It's I think it's quite an obscure independent press, Epoch Press, not heard of them. I will echo what everyone else has said about the font. The font is terrible. I did not like the font, and I never thought that I'd make a big issue of it. You know, it's a minor thing, isn't it, font? But at the beginning, it really jarred me, and I was like, I don't like this font. It's making me think about it, and I don't want to think about the font when I'm reading. I want to think about the words. There were also a couple of very minor errors in grammar and certain pieces of dialogue which didn't work, that kind of took me out of the story a bit, and I was like, I don't think that they would actually say that. You wouldn't say that to someone. So I think the only downside that this book has is that it wasn't edited very well. And those are very minor criticisms. There are very few and far between points of editing that should have happened, and around the production of the book as a textual object. Yeah, but no criticism of the author at all. I think this was a very solid book, and I loved it very much. And yeah, I'm pleased that I've read it, and thanks to the Women's Prize for highlighting it. So talk to me down below if you've read this book and what you thought of it. I could kind of see the narrative arc playing out. It was quite obvious to me what was happening. So in between each of the chapters, so each chapter has a nice heading about like what it's about, and in between there are sections that are titled A Black Day, which are very small snippets, and you kind of get the impression early on that something of what is happening on this black day, and as it goes through the novel you kind of get where it's going. And I didn't mind that at all. I've seen some criticism where people were like, well, it was obvious, and I'm like, that doesn't bother me that it was obvious where that was going. I liked the structure. I liked the individual chapters that were talking about various different people. So one of the themes in the book is queer relationships. She is a queer woman. She's talking about a relationship she had with a partner who she was very much in love with, and I really liked the kind of exploration around that, the way that other people handled her relationship, or just like things that families would say to you from a heteronormative family that would say to a queer person about their relationship. And I found that kind of very I don't know, just kind of spot on and very relatable. I really thought everything that she did in that book was fantastic. Yeah, so I'm gushing because I loved it so much. Tell me if you've read it down in the comments below. Tell me what you thought. And the next book, I'm not sure what I'm going to pick up from the Women's Prize shortlist. I have got Enter Ghost, which I really want to read very soon, so I might pick that one up. I've also got Soldier Sailor, which I'm less enthused about. I know everyone loves it, but I think because it's about motherhood, but this was also about parenting. This had a lot of discussion about parenting and motherhood and non-traditional families, queer families, and discussions around wanting children, not wanting children. Again, I thought that was handled very well. So yes, maybe I will enjoy Soldier Sailor, I don't know, but I think this one is resonating more with people that have had children, and I don't have children, so I don't think it will hit as hard for me. So I might read Enter Ghost next. The other one, I mean, this isn't a women's prize book. The other book I really want to get to very soon is The Night Alphabet by Joelle Taylor. Just because I saw her at the Cambridge Literary Festival perform. She read from this, and she also read from her poetry collection Canto, which was fantastic. And she is an amazing performer. So that one I think I might read next. But other than that, I'm going to slowly work my way through carrying on reading the Women's Prize long list. The only ones I don't think I'm going to read from the shortlist is River East, River West. I'm not that bothered about that one because I've heard some mixed reviews. And I might go back to Restless Dolly Maunder. I had to give it back to the library, so I didn't finish it. But I'm less enthused about that one than the others. But other than that, I'm just going to carry on plodding along with the Women's Prize, both for fiction and non-fiction. So I'm interested to hear what you thought if you've read In Defence of the Act, or if you want to pick it up now after hearing this review or after hearing other people talk about it. Talk to me in the comments below, and I will see you very soon in another video. Bye everyone.